All right, so today I have Natasha here with me. Natasha, I met her when I was taking a family photo, you and your
Yep.
girls. How old are they now?
They are 10.
They're 10. So this was 5 years ago, we
Yes.
said.
Yes, for their fifth birthday.
Oh, and they came in the cutest tutus. One was a little bit more, I can't remember who was more shy, but one was a little more shy, and the other one was like, I'm ready. Shoot me. So we're going back about five
Yep.
years. And something you mentioned to me is that you had them via IUI.
Yes.
So can you tell me, how did you know that you needed assistance
Okay.
having those precious little babies?
Okay. So that story kind of started a few years before that.
Okay.
So when I was diagnosed in 2011 with systemic SLE, basically lupus,
Okay.
and lupus nephritis.
Mm-hmm.
So the SLE, I cannot pronounce the proper name,
Mm-hmm.
but essentially lupus is an autoimmune disorder and attacks
Your whole
your whole
body.
body, so
Yeah.
different organs. So on top of that, I had kidney involvement. So I had stage 4 kidney disease when I was diagnosed. So it was lupus nephritis. And then I also have a clotting issues with blood clots. So there was a lot of medical stuff going on. So I was on really rough course of medication, including very high doses of prednisone, an anti-rejection drug called Cellcept, which was to help with my kidney disease, and a host of all
Other type of
other type of
medications.
medications. It was really bad.
How did that take a toll on your body?
It was really awful. So anyone who has been on prednisone knows some of the side effects. So I just developed Cushing disease, which means my face like blew up. I gained weight everywhere. I had buffalo hump. They call it on the back
At
of
the
my
back
neck,
of the neck.
back of the neck hair where I had no hair before.
Really?
It really affected. It was made my legs very weak, so walking was difficult. And then there was the emotional part, which were things like
You feel limited to certain
very
things.
limited brain fog, just
Mm-hmm.
horrible mood swings. I couldn't sleep,
Mm-hmm.
and this was all when I just got engaged when I was diagnosed, and then I was
After you got engaged, you
yep,
got to,
a few months after I was
wow.
engaged, I was diagnosed with lupus,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had just started this new job
Mm-hmm.
working, so I was working long hours, and it was just really bad. So one of the things that my team of specialists were really concerned about was the fact that my fertility might be affected by some of the medication I was taking.
So before you even go on,
Yeah,
I find that to be a big thing with like all medication. It's like, I'm sorry, all medication. You try to fix one thing
yeah.
and it creates another issue. Not all, but sometimes down the line it creates
Yes.
other
Yeah.
issues.
And that was the problem with me being treated for lupus. People who have lupus also understand it is a very difficult disease to diagnose. I was very blessed in a sense that I was diagnosed very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they caught it, I was officially diagnosed in July of 2011. And by August, I had stage 4 kidney disease.
Wow.
So there's 5 stages. I was stage 4.
Mm-hmm.
I had 22% kidney function. I was quite close to dialysis. Like it was awful. So I was really blessed. I had an excellent team of specialists,
Yeah.
but I was on a horrible regime of drugs. And to add to what you said, I would take one medication, but there were complications with that. So then I would have to take another
Another
set of
one.
medication, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the kicker was if the Cellcept and the prednisone, and I was on a dozen different types of drugs,
Mm-hmm.
if that didn't work, then I would have to go on this other drug called methotrexate,
Okay.
which essentially really can destroy your fertility. So that's when I started talking to subspecialists for fertility, people who had kidney disease,
Getting your options.
getting my options. Some of the options were possibly freezing my eggs, things like that. So that's how that story started.
Okay.
So finally, I was kicked into remission. The drugs worked. I was in remission. We got married, had like awesome wedding. It was an amazing day, right? And finally, we started, and I was about 35, 36 at the time. We started really thinking about having a family. So then I went to a specialists, and I'll never forget. I forget the name of the doctor, but it was on Bay Street, close to the bus station. What used to be the bus station.
Okay.
But things you don't forget. So I remember it was Valentine's Day weekend.
Okay.
And so I had this appointment, and I went to get, went to Victoria's Secret and
Get all nice and
fixed up because, it was like,
we about to make some babies.
Exactly. Right. And I was like, yeah, let's, get the good news from my, fertility doctor.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. And he said, I want to discuss the test results that we ran, the blood work that we did. And basically he was saying, you're going to, in short, you're going to have difficulty conceiving. And at that moment, I felt as if I had almost an out-of-body experience. I just remember, he was talking and
murmur. Charlie Brown.
Exactly, Charlie Brown teacher. And I lost focus of what he was saying because all I heard was, you're going to have problems conceiving. Yeah. And he started crying, just started crying. And I wish I remembered this man's name, but the doctor was amazing. He was just like, no, it's going to be okay.
We can do this.
It's okay. And he was looking frantically for Kleenex, and he got some paper towel, and he was like trying to blot my face because I lost it.
Yeah.
And I was so upset because, I did everything right.
You were on all the medication. Your body went through all of that.
Through hell on earth, right? I was so sick. The medication made me so sick. I still worked throughout that period of time. I had a really stressful job. Managed to get into a place where my body started to heal itself, and now
it's like another obstacle.
Another obstacle. You're now telling me, sorry. So anyways, he continued talking. What he said, I don't know.
You couldn't hear anything.
And he was like, we're going to work really hard to get you to a spot where you're able to conceive, and we'll do whatever we can. And, I can't promise.
But anything. We're going to try.
We're going to try, and so on and so forth. And somehow I managed to leave that appointment. I had my
Victoria's Secret bag. We had the lingerie ready.
Everything ready. Spent $100. I was ready, right? And I remember calling my husband because he was working on Front Street at that time, relatively close. And, well, not really, but I couldn't even drive.
You're like, come for me.
And he Usain Bolt, whatever. He just came, and he drove home, and I sat in the car, and I just was howling. I was so devastated. So then, fast forward, we went through the whole fertility process, and it was thankfully, I had really good insurance. My husband had really good insurance.
So that was able to help, because I've heard it's expensive. Well, the medication is expensive.
Yes. Now, this was 10 years ago, and I can't remember off the top how much it cost, medication, but I was on drugs called Clomid was one of them. So so they were shots that I had to take. And the first goal was to try to see if we can conceive naturally. So we were given, I was given these drugs that I had to take, the shots to stimulate my hormones and produce more eggs and that sort of thing. So we tried that. And it was funny because it was, again, going back to, grade 11 biology, follicle stimulating hormones and, all your levels and that sort of thing. So we tried to conceive naturally. My husband, I told him, I said, listen, you are a part of this process as well. It's not just me.
Yeah.
They were injections that I had to take in my hip.
Did you give them to yourself, or did you go in to get them done?
I had to give them to myself.
Okay.
But I gave them to him.
To give to you.
To me. And so he was fully involved in the process. So he gave me those. So we tried conceiving naturally, I think twice. And it was it didn't work. Because
when you hear a lot of stories in regards to IVF, IUI, whatever the procedure may be, I hear that a lot of the times that's the hard part, the emotional, where it's you're waiting, am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? And then you see you're not. So do you remember going through that when you were first trying, or were you more kind of aware that there may be an issue, so it didn't really affect you as much?
I mean, I was aware that there was an issue, but I was
Mhm.
still really hopeful. Like,
Yeah.
hopefully this works. And, and it was funny because you really only have 2 days. You have a very short window each month where you are actually very fertile. So it was the most unromantic, unsexy process ever.
Come on, let's go. We just got to do this, get it over with.
We had to go each morning and get
Mhm.
tested. I had to get blood work done. And then I would get a call. Okay,
you're good to go.
You're good to go. Good to go. And it was like, a Tuesday evening. You come home from work, you're tired. It's the last thing you want to do. And I'm like, my husband's named Rick. And I said, listen, man, you got to get it together.
We got to do this.
We have to do this. Drink some wine. Like, do what you got to do. To his credit, like, he
really did his thing.
He did his thing. We didn't conceive naturally. I was very upset, but I kind of knew, that
it was a possibility.
It was a possibility. Yeah, exactly. So then the doctor said, okay, we're going to try IUI.
Okay.
So I said, okay.
Were you familiar? Because for me, I feel like I've always heard about IVF. And then I heard about IUI. So were you already like kind of familiar with it, or was this a brand new world?
So the IUI was brand new. Like all I heard was IVF, right? In vitro fertilization. So IUI was kind of the first step before you jumped into IVF.
Okay.
Right? So it's less intrusive, sort of. But it's called intrauterine insemination.
Okay.
So basically what they're doing is kind of sounds like they're inseminating
the egg for you.
Right. They're inseminating the sperm. The eggs are already there, but they're inseminating the sperm
into the egg.
Me. So I was like, okay, what's this? So
I'll try.
Right, sure. So my husband, he had, sorry, Rick.
Sorry, Rick. It's all for a story.
So he had to do sperm wash and,
do it all.
And, he was.
So wait, hold on. Sorry. Cause I don't know. What's a sperm wash?
So sperm wash is you give a sperm, you do what you need to do and you have sperm.
Okay.
They take the sperm in the lab and they make sure that they're good quality sperm. Right.
So the good stay, the bad gotta go.
Exactly. So he had great quality sperm.
Shout out to you, Rick.
Shout out to Rick. So he had to do that. I had to, of course, continue to take, medication to stimulate the eggs. And then we again had to make an appointment and we had to go in, and it's, you get a phone call.
You have to be ready.
You got to be ready and you got to come in. So I remember specifically it was Easter weekend. It was Holy Thursday and Good Friday where we went in. And I got the insemination done. So what that entails is it's like going to the gynecologist and kind of getting a pap smear, but not quite.
Got it.
They insert you with the speculum, but it's a small, very flexible tube where they insert the sperm. And
so they just put it in your body and let it swim.
Just put it in.
Find your way.
Find your way.
Wish for the best.
Wish for the best. And it was actually quite painful because I have a tilted cervix. So I felt everything. So
that's not fun.
That was terrible.
Because pap smears, I feel like, are bad enough as they are.
Exactly.
So
they're horrible enough. So then I had to do that, and I had to do that not once but twice. So 2 days in a row.
Okay.
Right. And the hope is, one of the eggs, one of the times that you do this, you'll conceive. So fine and dandy. So we did that. It was Easter weekend, and May 6th, I got a call. I was at work. Again, these are things that it seared into my memory.
Sticks in your mind.
Sticks in my mind. So I remember sitting at my desk and I was working, and I got a phone call, and it was the nurse from the fertility clinic. And she's like, "Hi, Natasha, how are you?" And I was like, I'm fine.
What do you want?
Exactly. How are you? Right. Again, not thinking. And she's like, "How have you been feeling?" And I said, "Okay, I'm just kind of tired."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, okay. You're pregnant." And I said, "What?"
It worked?
I said, "Excuse me?"
So even though you were working for it, it was like,
I just didn't want to get my hopes up.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get my hopes up. And so I said, "What do you mean I'm pregnant?" And she's like, "You are pregnant. It worked. You're pregnant. I forget how many weeks, not many, whatever.
Yeah.
You're pregnant.
We need you to come in."
Well, not even that. It was like their involvement was no longer, like it was done, right?
Yes, because their procedure is done now.
Right. So they're like, "You're pregnant." And I said, "I'm going to be someone's mother." Oh my God, I can't believe this. Like the
reality of it all sets in.
I was like, oh my God. So I couldn't wait. I originally was planning on telling my husband in person, but I couldn't wait. So I called.
Rick got that call ASAP.
He got that call, and he is excited, and it was just So, so we got pregnant. So that's what happened, and then a few weeks later, I started spotting, and I said,
"Oh no!"
I said, "Father God, please, I have been through enough. I can't."
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, don't panic.
Maybe it's just something else.
Don't panic.
Yeah.
So I went to the ER. And I let them know, I'm pregnant, I'm spotting, I don't know what this means. Please don't let me help. I remember my demeanor was really calm. I was just like, you know what? It's in God's hands. Let me just go.
Yeah.
Fine. So it was so funny. Pregnancy brain is a real thing.
It really is.
It is a real thing. So the doctor came with the bedside, what is it called? Ultrasound machine. And he started taking, did a little ultrasound. And he's like, oh, I see 2 fetal heartbeats. And I was, again, pregnancy brain.
Not even thinking.
I was like, oh, great. The baby's heartbeat is there. And my heartbeat's there. Great. I'm still alive.
I'm still alive. I'm here.
Good. We're both. Didn't clue in at all. So then I went and I had another ultrasound in the hospital.
Yeah.
Went back.
This was after. Okay. So you still think.
Still not computing, right? That I was pregnant with twins. So he came up and I did the ultrasound after I came back up, and I heard him talking to a nurse, and he's like, well, this is the second person I'm telling this week that's they're having twins. And I was like, who's he talking?
He ain't talking about me.
He peels back the curtain. He's like, well, everything's okay, but you're pregnant with twins. And I said, excuse me.
What?
What? Because the same fertility doctor, he said, one of the things he said was, he's like, the goal is in a few months, you're going to be dealing with little feet, blah, blah, blah. He's like, we don't really like multiples because it's very difficult. It means a difficult pregnancy. And I was like, why wouldn't you, what's wrong with multiples? And I was like, okay. Fast forward, yes.
You had multiples.
I had multiples. Twins don't run in my family. It was
at all. So it was because of the process?
Because of the process. Both procedures worked. So I have fraternal twins.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not identical, fraternal twins. So that was how we discovered we were having twins.
How did Rick take that when you said twins? Was he excited? Like, 2 one time?
I said, okay, I'm not calling him with this. I can't do that.
Not yet.
I'm not going to call him over the phone. So he knew I was at the hospital. So I said, everything is okay. I'm fine. It's okay. So he comes home from work, and I said, look, I'm going to tell you about what happened today. Have a seat. And I'll never forget. And I really wish I pulled up my phone and videotaped this, but I didn't. So I told him, I said,
importance of memories.
Exactly. So I said, have a seat. I'm going to tell you what happened. We're having twins. And this man aged like 10 years.
You've seen it.
He just seen it. He just aged. And he was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we're having twins. This is amazing, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. So it was funny because at first, we didn't want to know the gender of the baby when we just thought we were having a singleton.
Yeah.
And everything will be a surprise. And nope. We're like, need to start planning.
We need to know. There's 2 of them. Right? We need to know.
One time we need to start planning.
Wow.
So that's how we found out we were having twins. And then found out we were. So I will say, just kind of going into the fertility story now, into the pregnancy story. So everything was good for about week 17 or so. 18.
So we're about 4 months and a bit.
Yes. Yeah. And so I started barely had any morning sickness.
Easy breezy.
Like it was, the only issue was me finding maternity clothes. Because I found they were so expensive. I'm like, this.
Yeah, they are. They still are expensive.
I'm like, this is ridiculous, right? But everything was fine until I was followed I was being followed at Sunnybrook Hospital because I was high risk.
Okay. So and that was because of your
diagnosis. So because of the diagnosis of lupus, the fact that I was over 35,
Mhm.
and because I was carrying multiples.
Okay.
So I was in the high risk, being followed at the high risk clinic.
Okay.
So my nephrologist was a doctor there. So she would follow me. We had to go like every other week for ultrasounds. Like they watch me like a hawk.
Yeah.
So I went, and essentially my cervix was starting to open, right? My cervix was starting to open. Throughout all this, my lupus was fine. It was calm. It was managed. My cervix started to open, and I had told my OBGYN that my mother had that problem. Her cervix started to open. She lost 2 babies before me and my sister. And she had a cerclage with me, and she had a cerclage with my sister.
Sorry, what's a cerclage?
So a cerclage
is when they sew you?
Is they sew your,
okay.
Yeah, sew you. So they give you the stitch, so literally the baby doesn't slide.
Yeah.
Right? So I told her, and she said, oh, thank you for letting me know. I don't think it's necessarily like something that's hereditary, but we'll keep an eye. Lo and behold, right? So it was about, I think it was 18 or 19 weeks. My cervix started to open. So that was devastating. So when I got that news, I was also very sick. I was very dehydrated. I started to get really sick. And then at that appointment, they discovered that my cervix started to open. So then I was immediately admitted. I had emergency surgery, so the cerclage put in. And I remember the doctor, my doctor was on vacation. It was Dr. Barrett from Sunnybrook. And he said, we're going to admit you, we're going to do this cerclage. We're going to do what we can, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I said, Dr. Barrett, I am not losing these
2 babies.
And he's like, well, I can't get, and I said,
you're not hearing me. I'm not losing
these babies. And
yeah.
He kind of stared at me like, okay.
I'll try.
Right? And I was admitted, had the surgery, and I was on bed rest from that point forward.
How was that, being on bed rest?
So that was difficult. It was scary because I was afraid that, obviously, you don't
want to do anything wrong.
I don't want to do anything wrong. Yeah. I don't want to do anything that would cause me to, like spontaneously like have these babies way ahead of time. So that was really tough. And I felt kind of robbed in a way because I wasn't able to enjoy
the full pregnancy.
Right? And so it was to a point where, I was like, okay, well, I was also told that they would not let me go to the full term anyways. They would induce me at 37 weeks.
Okay.
So then I thought, okay, if I just make it to 35 weeks,
I'll be okay.
I'll be fine. Yeah. And then it became 30. And then it became like,
got closer and closer.
Like closer and closer. And so it was really, really stressful. I was still working as much as I could as a lawyer. I was in private practice, like from my bed and
typing away everything you could.
Doing what I could. I couldn't attend court or things like that. So that was hard. But, I had to accept, like, this is what's going on right now. There's not much I can do. I need to focus on these.
Of course.
On these 2. So that's what I did. And then it was Asha, little Asha. So my girls' names are Asha and Sarabi. So Babby for short.
Babby.
Little Babby bear. But that's the one that wouldn't smile.
Babby said.
It's just like, so Asha, I was getting ready to go to another appointment, and I was getting dressed. I came from the bathroom, and my water broke. Just broke.
And what, at this point, you're how many weeks?
24 weeks. Oh. 24 weeks. So 24 weeks and I think a couple of days. So I was like, what? And my mom moved in with us at that time to take care of me. And I was like, what? Something's happening. I don't know.
Breaking
down. And it was Asha, who was always in a hurry. Her water broke. So we live in Milton. We made it to Sunnybrook. I swear to God, it was maybe 45 minutes. Like, we just zoomed up that highway.
Straight down.
Zoomed up that highway. And thank God, like, again, God was looking out for us throughout this entire journey. Can't stress that enough.
Yeah.
So we get there and, they check me and they're like, okay, nothing's happening right now. It's, we kind of got things under control. So I held on, and then I developed an infection. I held on for a few days.
So sorry, you said you
Yeah.
held on. So your
Held
water
on.
broke.
My water broke, but I didn't go into labor. I didn't go into labor,
Oh,
and there was still
okay.
enough amniotic fluid where
To keep her
to keep her
extended.
inside. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was like some of the worst days ever. Just the amount of stress.
Oh,
So
man.
held on. Then I started to develop an infection,
Mhm.
and I was 25 weeks in one day at
Okay.
that point. And I remember the resident physician came in, and so they would take my temperature every hour
Okay.
to make sure I didn't develop an infection.
Mhm.
And I just kind of started to feel unwell at one point, and they took my temperature and I spiked the temperature.
Mhm.
And the resident physician came in, and she again took a look at did an ultrasound, and she was just like, okay, we're gonna have to get these babies out. Their heart rates are all over the place. This infection is, causing their heart rates to, be erratic, fluctuate. We're gonna have to do an emergency C-section.
How do you feel hearing that?
Again, another out of body experience.
Mhm.
And it's just like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
What's happening? So luckily my mom was there, my husband was there, my mother-in-law was there. So the surgeon that was going to be performing the C-section came in, and she had just got out of another surgery,
Mhm.
because I remember she had blood on her.
Oh.
On her name tag.
She's fresh out the surgery.
I know, and I was just like, what is happening? So she's talking. I'm listening. I'm not processing any
Mhm.
information. The type of person I am, like, I get upset and hysterical after.
Got it.
Happened.
Mhm.
So I was trying to listen, and it was just, again, I wasn't processing the information. So it was only when they started to wheel me into the OR, I started crying. And my husband was amazing. Like, he, very calm. He's like, we're going to be okay. He was there during the C-section. And I just remember seeing, like, the little gurney or whatever. And I'm like, this is very narrow. Like, I'm going to roll off.
I can't fit on this.
I can't fit on this. I'm like, how is this going to work?
Yeah.
How is this going to work? So they tried to freeze me. It took about 3 or 4 attempts. It wasn't working. It was not working. It was bad. There's, like, I swear to God, a team of like 20 people in the OR. Like, it was a production. So they're like, look, we got to go. So I was sort of frozen. I was frozen.
But not frozen.
Like, I didn't feel the scalpel, but I felt the pressure.
Right?
So I'll spare all the details, but literally I felt the retractor open me. I felt the hands. I felt like it was
all
bad. I felt it all. And I remember, like, I started throwing up. They had to give me oxygen. Mm-hmm. I started getting really combative, trying to rip out the tube. They had to, like,
hold you down
like Jesus of Nazareth on the thing, on the gurney. Like, I'm pretty sure I fractured Rick's hands when I was crushing his fingers. Like, it was crazy. But I remember they pulled out Asha first, and they're like, "Oh, it's a girl. Did you know you're having a girl?" And I was so miserable. I said, "I know I'm having a girl. I already knew this.
Is she okay?"
Right? And they're like, "Okay." Right? And then they pulled out the other one, Babby. It's another girl. And I'm like, "Why are you telling me this? I already know they're having." Like, it was awful.
You just wanted the procedure to be over.
I just wanted it to be over.
Yeah.
And so I just remember they kind of yanked them out, and then it was like whoosh, like all these people started working on them right away, because they were only 25 weeks in one day, right? I didn't have a third trimester.
Yeah.
So
do you remember how much they weighed at birth?
Yes. So Asha was 1.5 pounds, 600 and 700 grams, I think. Yeah, like, they were tiny. Yeah, a little over 1.5 pounds each. Yeah.
Wow.
Like, they were really, really tiny, super tiny. So I remember the nurse came in afterwards when I was, like, in the OR, and she's like, "Okay, well, we want you to start doing breast expressions." And I was like,
"Ma'am, I'm tired.
Can I get, like, some water or something?"
Yeah, a little Jello.
Like, I was just so discombobulated. Like, I didn't, I was still trying to process everything that went on.
Yeah.
So finally we got to see them, and it was bizarre, because I didn't feel like I gave birth, right? And I didn't know who or what I was looking at. So
Yeah.
because they were so small, they were covered in tubes and
Yeah.
wires. They had
And
little,
you couldn't hold them,
couldn't
right?
hold them.
Yeah.
You know, I had the little hat on. I remember Asha had a little hat on, and you know, a little blanket. And Babby Bear was like just covered, tubes, wires, everything. And I was just like,
What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah.
What is going on? And it was so strange. And then I remember people saying like stuff, oh, congratulations. And I was like, congratulations for what? For what? They're like,
all you see is these babies in tubes.
In tubes and like, you know, clinging to life. And
Yeah.
it was a really, really, really rough time. And they were so sick. So sick. We almost lost them. I don't know how many times.
Both.
Right? Both of them.
Wow.
And then they had bleeding on the brain.
Both of them?
Both of them. So the neurologist came in, I think maybe 2 days afterwards, 2 or 3 days afterwards, and they had done ultrasounds right away. Or MRIs.
MRIs.
So, which is pretty common for, you know, babies that come that early. They want to see what their brain activity looks like.
The development, are they okay?
Exactly. Yeah. So I remember she came in, and my mom was there, and she said, okay, we did, it was the MRI. I don't know. I can't remember if it was an MRI or CAT scan. CAT scan. And she said, you know, we have, we did them, and Asha has bleeding on her brain, and Sarabi has bleeding on her brain. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? And she's like, there's 4 grades of bleeds, and they both have, so there's 2 hemispheres of your brain, right? So it's called bilateral interventricular hemorrhaging, IVH. So she said Asha has it on both sides, and they're grades 3.
And you said 4 is the highest.
4. And Sarabi has it on both sides, and she has grades 3 and 4. And Sarabi had, her ventricles were enlarged. And I was like, what the hell
is going on?
What does this mean? And I said, what does this mean? And she said, you know, she looked very somber. And she said, you know, this means they might have difficulty, you know, walking, talking. They might have severe brain damage. They might have cerebral palsy. They might have blah, blah.
All types of different things.
All types of different things and complications, but we don't know until, you know, they get older and you're not sure. And I just, again, lost it. Lost it. And I was howling and crying and carrying on. And my mom is a former nurse. She was a pediatric nurse. So she had just retired basically to stay home and take care of me. And
shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom. Shout out to all the moms. Oh my gosh. And I remember she went instantly into nurse mode, and she was telling the neurologist, she's like, you know, maybe we should call psych up here. Let's get like, so basically
mom took over.
Psych person came up. I was given some Ativan or something to calm me down, because that's how far gone I was. And the next day I went to see a psychiatrist. I was still in the hospital, right, recovering. And so, you know, the long story short, it was a long road. They were in the hospital for about 4 months. So 3 months in Sunnybrook, which is the highest level of care for
newborns,
premature babies, so severely premature babies.
Yes, then, because I have had a couple babies. Just they're like, I'll let you know when they're out. Where are you guys? Sunnybrook. Yeah.
If you are going to have a premature baby,
that's where you need to be.
That is the place to be. That staff is amazing. I am still in touch with some of the staff there, some of the nurses. That. Like, they are a part of our family. And so they were there for 3 months, and then they were at they graduated. They were at Credit Valley for a month. Asha came home first, right on her due date. So their birthday was supposed to be January 6th, but they were born September 24th.
And so she came home on January 6th.
She came home on January 6th.
Wow.
Her sister, Babby, said, you know what? I'm not ready. She didn't want to breathe on her own yet. So she stayed there another 3 weeks, and then she came home.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so now, you know, they're 10, but that whole road, like, we had help from, you know, neurologists. We had specialized pediatrician. We
Mhm.
went to we had or OT, occupational therapist.
It
We
was a
had
lot.
it was a
Like,
lot physiotherapist.
yeah.
One thing that really helped, I think, with a premature baby, their brains kind of reset themselves, right? So we did a lot of, it's called kangaroo care. So literally we
Hmm.
would hold
Keep
them,
them.
keep
Yeah.
them for 12 hours, 13 hours. Like we lived at the hospital, we
Yeah.
lived at Sunnybrook, and it really made a difference.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And I also just want to say, too, and one thing um, that the doctor said to me as well when we got the really bad news, we had this huge family meeting with the one of the other neurologists, and we were looking at the not the ultrasound,
The
sorry,
results, the
the
scan.
results, the scan,
Yeah.
brain scan, and I don't know what I was looking at, and he was throwing out all these statistics. They're more than likely to have CP and cerebral palsy, and
Hmm.
some brain. They will have brain damage. They will have brain damage.
So basically, just putting in your ear. There's
Put it
going to
in
be
your
issues. It's
ear.
going to be
Right. And
issues.
then with Babby, at one point, we're almost kind of looking at, some comfort care for her, because
Hmm.
it was such, she had so many issues, right? So
Hmm.
we were just like, I'm like, what is going on here, right?
Hmm.
But one thing he said was, he's like, so what if your child has a disability, right? And I said, yes, you're right. You
Hmm.
know, um, they're still my children. I'm still going to love them no matter
Yeah.
what.
Yeah.
No matter what, whether they can walk, whether they can speak, whether, it
They're
doesn't matter.
yours.
They're mine, and they're given to
Hmm.
me for a reason, right?
Hmm.
So, I went into that, and it was hard because, you do have your own hopes and dreams of
Of
what you think
course.
your baby is going to look like, or what
Yep.
they're going to be able to do, or what they're going to be able to do as children or as young adults or whatever, right? And I
Hmm.
had to put that out of my mind, and I had to say, listen, whatever small victory we have today,
We're going to celebrate
we're
them
going to
all.
celebrate that. So if they're on room air now,
Hmm.
great. If they learn how to swallow, fantastic,
Amazing.
amazing. Like, enjoy the moment, enjoy the milestones, and yes, feel sad,
Of
mourn,
course. Feel your
right?
emotions.
And I had to mourn a pregnancy that I didn't have, that I thought I deserved to have, right?
Hmm.
Um, so that was really difficult. But with the two of them, as I said, we worked with a lot of different specialists. And, the lawyer brain in me, I'm always thinking and planning ahead. So I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get, specialized schooling for them, and tutoring, and
Hmm.
we're going to
Everything that they
everything
need.
that they need. And I was doing silly things like, at 3 months, looking at flashcards for them, and then like
Hmm.
just
Doing it all.
doing it all, going off the deep end. And and I will say this also in between that. So about 3 weeks after they were born, I had this horrible headache, and I thought, okay, it's just the stress of the pregnancy, the stress of this like really traumatic birth.
Yeah.
Um, you know, didn't really think much of it, and then it just wouldn't go away. Right? And I thought,
Hmm.
okay, it's a really bad migraine. So my mom's like, listen, we're going to the hospital, and
Hmm.
they're like, well, we think it's just a migraine.
We'll
Here's
wait
some
it out.
wait it out. Here's some tramadol. Tramadol didn't do anything. This medication did nothing. Went back. Long story short, my mom said, "Listen, she's not leaving this place until she gets a MRI with contrast, and that's it." So
Shout out to mom.
shout out to mom again. So mom saved my life because I ended up. So they admitted me. I had the MRI. I remember being in so much pain. So I was in Milton Hospital, and they didn't have an MRI facility then at that time.
Hmm.
So I had to go to Oakville. So they had to transport me in the ambulance, I guess. And I just remember thinking, if you people drop me on the floor, on the ground in the parking lot, and you put that vehicle in reverse and run me over, I will be fine
Hmm.
leaving this earth, because I was in so much
Really?
agony. I was in so much
I
pain.
mean, I don't want to say I understand, but
Yeah.
like just hearing from you from the beginning up until this, it's like how much
How much
more.
more? How much
Yeah.
more? I was in so much pain. So they did the MRIs, sorry. Come back. My blood pressure's through the roof. I'm on IV drip, ice bag on my head, all this stuff.
Hmm.
Didn't know what day it was. And the nurse comes in and says to my mom, Dr. So and so, Dr. Bashir, I think his name was, wants to speak with you.
Hmm.
And she was like, okay. So, anyways, half an hour later, so she comes in. So I had a blood clot. I had a blood clot. So this is my second blood clot because I had originally when I was
In
diagnosed with lupus, I had a DVT, so deep vein thrombosis, and that's how I got that diagnosis. So I had a blood clot in my vein going up the side of my brain.
To your brain.
And if I didn't get that MRI,
who knows?
Who knows what would happen? I probably wouldn't be sitting here today.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, so shout out to mom.
Shout out to mom.
So that was rough because I was in the hospital in Milton. The girls were still at Sunnybrook. Mm-hmm. They were about 30 weeks at that time. So it was really bad. And I think one thing that I think a lot of people don't really talk about enough in the whole birth story is the role that husbands or partners mm-hmm. have in all this. And I feel like they kind of get pushed to the side and forgotten. So my husband went through a lot of trauma himself, mm-hmm. right? So for him, that was his breaking point because I was in the hospital.
And the kids are in the hospital.
They were in the hospital clear across the GTA.
Yeah.
And he was thinking, what if I lose my wife and my children at the same time? And that was probably the first time I've seen him cry.
Wow.
Ever, right?
That was his breaking point.
That was his breaking point. So that was really, really difficult. But, I think it brought us closer together. And I know for some people this could either really break you or bring you closer. So luckily we were able to,
come together.
But, we also had a lot of support from family, from our friends. Mm-hmm. Our faith was really important. So it was a really tough time, mm-hmm. but we, you walk through it.
Yeah.
Right? You get through it. So long story short, Asha and Sarabi are now 10.
They're 10.
Grade 5.
How are they doing?
No deficits.
Look amazing.
Good students. A little lazy. Disappointed with the midterm report card.
But we're going to work on it.
Distraction and disorganization is an issue we're working
on. But they are kids.
And they're 10. And so they're just like any other average 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Sarabi, she has selective mutism, but that has nothing to do with.
And selective mutism is?
Selective mutism is so kind of tied to anxiety, so she doesn't speak.
Okay.
So people that she doesn't know, she won't
speak to.
She won't feel comfortable speaking, that sort of thing. So that's something that we're dealing with. But I mean, other than that, she speaks nonstop at home. Nonstop.
So she's good. She's good. She just needs to be comfortable.
They both do dance. Asha loves the piano. Babby did violin. She quit.
Not her thing.
Mm-hmm. She's actually not bad. They did soccer, did mm-hmm. swimming.
Amazing. Just from that journey of the process and the pain and the emotions that you went through, and then just to see them thriving now.
Surviving, not just surviving, thriving.
Thriving.
Right? Thriving. Average, normal kids, quote unquote normal. And I'm really careful with how I use that word because what one person's normal is maybe not normal for someone else.
Yeah.
So they're our normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're really smart kids. And when you met them, they were 5. So yeah, now they're 10. So we are overdue for photos.
We'll talk.
But they're just 2 remarkable kids. And you know what? Even though their conception, their journey, their birth story, everything was pretty damn horrific, mm-hmm. I would not change anything about it. I think I was put in the position for a reason. I'm very blessed. Sometimes they drive me cuckoo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Many days, at least for me.
This morning we're arguing about, can you please clean up your room?
Mm-hmm.
Stuffing clothes underneath the bed and in the closet, that does not count.
Yeah.
That's cleaning up your room.
We need them in the drawers.
We need them in the drawers.
Yeah.
On hangers. But, things like that, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Right? I'll take that.
Yeah.
Right? I'll take this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been a blessing. It's been a journey. We've had our dark days. We've had our amazing days, and yeah.
Love that. Well, we're glad they're here. Glad everything worked out. Glad you're here.
Yes.
Glad that you had your mom to advocate for you,
Yes.
because we hear a lot of stories, especially for Black women. They think that their pain tolerance is this and we're making up this. So to be able to have your mom just be in that field, because maybe if she wasn't, who knows what would have happened, right? So yeah, just thank you for sharing your story with me. And I'll be seeing you guys for family photos.